Hi, guys. So excited today for a very, very special episode today. And I am so honored to be here with Sarah Kennedy, who is the CEO of Calocurb. And I'm so excited to bring you this new cutting edge technology. It's really not new, but more cutting edge supplement that I think has so much implication for my audience. So we're going to dive into it. There's so much to talk about. I want to hear all about the science. This is a New Zealand based company, and Sarah is also in New Zealand. So, good morning to you. It's actually evening for us here.
Oh, good morning to you, Zachna, and thank you for having me on. And I'm just looking out the window here, and we're going into autumn, but it's a beautiful blue day, and I'm looking out on Auckland Harbour.
Oh, wow. We're going into spring, but it's also a blue day here full of rain. So, very exciting. So, thank you for coming on. I'm really excited. Typically, some of these supplements and things like that, I have very unique indications for and how I use them. And so, in this case, probably something very outside the box that I'm thinking and doing with. And so, I wanted to kind of get started on this. So, the supplement that we're talking about today is called Calocurb, and I'm going to let Sarah kind of talk a little bit about the supplement, but also the science behind it and kind of how it works.
Great, thank you very much. Well, look, this started in 2010, and just as a little bit of background, just about all primary research is done by the government in New Zealand.
Great.
So, a group of scientists in 2010 in our largest research institute called Plant and Food Research had a hypothesis that they would find a plant based extract that suppressed appetite, suppressed hunger. They did this for two reasons. One was historical, which was in times of famine, people in the Scottish Highlands chewed very bitter berries. People in the Kalahari Desert, the tribesmen before they went, chewed very bitter cactus to suppress their appetite. So there was a historical basis for this, but also some more recent work that had been done in animals with very, very bitter substances. So that with that hypothesis, they received a $20 million grant from the New Zealand government. And they've done amazing work. They literally took samples from right down the human gut. So starting from the stomach down to the colon, they took samples of little biopsies. And they proved that we had what we call these receptor cells, which are called TAS2R receptor cells in our lining of our gut. When these are activated, they release three gastric hormones, GLP or CCK, GLP-1, and then PYY. And this is an evolutionary mechanism which prevented us from eating bitter foods, which was supposedly poisonous, or could be. And that's how plants made themselves to stop us eating them. So once they'd done that, they then said, well, can we stimulate these? Can we stimulate these with a plant extract? So they built out a model of what they call an enteroendocrine model, and they tested over 1,000 plant extracts against this. Literally only three worked. One was potato alkaloid, which was great, but it would kill you. The second one was a peptide, but they were very unstable. The third was an extract of hops. So hops being what we add to beer. So they had the one that, yes, this did super stimulate and it would stimulate. They then tested over 100 varieties of different hops and got the one that was literally the eureka. So that was sort of stage one, and that took about 4 years. Stage two was, would it actually work when you used it in humans? So that's when they did their first human clinical study, and a supplement was developed. So the extract of vegetable oil and a tiny amount of rosemary. This was given an hour before a main meal, an ad libitum main meal, which was actually lunch. And then the bloods were measured in the humans. There was over 30 humans. Bloods were measured, and that so could show this rise of GLP-1 and CCK at 6 times base level. And then they measured calorie intake. So calorie intake was reduced by an average of 18%. So there we had a natural extract that super stimulated our own endogenous release of GLP-1 and CCK to reduce our hunger, to reduce our appetite. Probably what you'll be very interested in with fasting is we then took that into 2 fasting trials because we wanted to get its measure on reducing hunger and craving. So we took it into 2, once again, 30 men, and then we then went on and did it in women. But 30 men, it was in a 24-hour water-only fast, and in the last 8 hours we gave Calocurb at 16 hours and 20 hours, and we measured hunger and fullness, and in women we measured craving. Really interesting, the 2 trials.
Yes.
In males we reduced hunger by around about 25%. In females, well, 80% in the last 8 hours, but that equates to an average of 25% overall. But females responded more to GLP-1 stimulation, and that's thought to be an evolutionary mechanism as well. It protected our fetuses and babies. But we got 100% decrease in hunger in women, so they were no more hungry at 24 hours than they were at 16 hours. The other thing we got was 120% reduction in craving, which was just extraordinary. So we were because craving and hunger are different. We then did an ad libitum meal straight afterwards in women, and we got a 14.5% reduction in rebound eating. So you've got to remember, this is after a 24-hour water-only fast, and 4 hours after taking Calocurb, they ate 14.5% less. So you're right saying it's not new. It is new because we're patented. We have shown a very, very novel way to reduce appetite. We are the first in the world, but of course we're using old and historical methods that we use to reduce hunger, just in what we call in a modern way.
Exactly. So just to recap for the people listening, I love the science behind it. It's basically Amarasate, which is a hops, barley-based hops kind of.
No, hops, just a minute. Hops
Hops.
are a flower.
Oh,
So
it's a flower.
yes, it's a flower of a hop plant which goes into beer in small amounts, which flavors beer. So, and it's an extract. So just anyone's going, well, hops have some phytoestrogen. The extract takes out all organic matter, including the phytoestrogens. So you are just left with the alpha and beta acids and some essential oils. So it is literally, it's a tiny amount
of that. And so what I love about it, and we'll get into that science a little bit more too, I love the fact that it helps your gut cells produce their own GLP-1, which right now GLP-1 is like the new black. Everybody is talking about GLP-1 because of, Ozempic and Wegovy. And I have my thoughts on all of those things. I'm not a big fan of them. It comes with a lot of side effects. And so obviously the fact that I have you on today really tells you how much I believe in this product and how such a good product that it is. So basically it mimics that, but in its own, helping your body produce it by itself versus taking something external. And so I love that about Calocurb. What I really like too is that you did studies on men and then women, and you really saw these remarkable differences, in the cravings, but as well as the hunger. And so what is a little bit of the science, without getting too sciencey, but a little bit of the science of, does it help with ghrelin and leptin, and does it help with that? Like, how does it make you have a less of an appetite or hunger?
Well, ghrelin, the point being is ghrelin is your hunger appetite, your hunger signal. We're a patented formulation, but we're a patented capsule. We bypass the stomach and we go into the upper duodenum. Now, this is where GLP or CCK is released first. So let me go back. You're 100% right. We are super stimulating your endogenous release. We can't overstimulate it. You've got your little receptor cells there, and every time you eat, they were going to release CCK and GLP-1. We just do it earlier and we super stimulate them. And so at 6 times base level, or twice what you'd have after eating. But we're not going to do them any harm because we're just super stimulating them, and they respond after every meal. So we go down into the upper duodenum or the upper gut. We stimulate the release of CCK first. That is probably the most potent of the appetite suppressing hormones, but it's a very short acting. Then we pass a little bit further down and we stimulate GLP-1. And this is the one that probably people know from the synthetic injectables. So the synthetic injectables, you inject yourself in with GLP-1. We just stimulate your own. Mm-hmm. Then we pass down it a little bit further, so that's longer acting. And then we stimulate PYY, which is the last of the appetite suppressing hormones. Those three then act to tell your brain you're full and you're no longer craving. So they do that by stimulating the vagal nerve. So this does not get released in your bloodstream. So you are not literally flooding your body with GLP-1. You are just working on your own natural system. And we believe that we are helping reconnect in a lot of people that brain-gut signal, very much in our environment, with lack of sleep, our diets, and so many things, we lose that connection, and we're helping bring that back.
That's amazing. And, anybody who's watching this, especially if you're in my group and follow my work, that is the crust of my work, which is to help your body heal itself. So in this case, using a supplement that will help your body, your gut produce this substance is so much far better, in my opinion, than using a synthetic injectable. And the other thing with, the injectable Ozempic and Wegovy and all of that, the injectable, once you inject, it's on all week. What I love about Calocurb is that once it's, in your system and then out of the system, whatever hour of times, 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever number of hours, it's out. And then your body kind of goes back to homeostasis, which is what you need. And that's more natural versus, once you get an injectable, you are on all week until you get to the next injectable or next cycle.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're at this almost a supraphysiological level. If you look at our clinicals and if you looked at our bloods that we did, we follow the normal pattern of release. We follow it. We're just a bit, not a bit, we are higher in it, but we are what you actually need. We're following the normal body release. I think the other thing is when you inject yourself, you're also suppressing your endogenous hormones, which is, I think, why so many people are getting this weight rebound, because literally when you're injecting something in, you're going to suppress your own body's hormones, because your own body goes, whoa, I don't need to do anything. You've done it for me. So, when you come off the injectables, you're going to be hit by this massive hunger because your endogenous system. So you actually have to get that you've got to reconnect that brain gut connection.
Exactly. And, I don't know all the science behind the injectables, but as much as I've read and researched, there is something to it about also that they kind of eat away muscle mass. And so here you're completely alleviating that side effect by any of these things that may cause that, by just taking something that is a lot more natural. And again, endogenous, your body producing its own GLP-1. So I love that. So one of the main reasons I had you, because when the work I do in my audience is entirely patients who are highly sensitive, very chronically ill patients. I do have a lot of adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue, hormonal imbalances, mold toxicity, things like that. But then, of course, I have my overweight, metabolically unhealthy patients, diabetes. And I've had so many people over the years reach out to want help. So in looking at this type of clientele, if we take away just the weight loss portion for now, and in looking at this type of clientele, that is very chronically ill, that has been almost bedridden for a few years, or they've tried everything out there, they've seen conventional medicine, functional medicine doctors, that's when they come to me. And that's where I kind of chime in and kind of help them use their body to heal themselves. That's the premise of my work. So when I saw everything about Calocurb, I knew that this was something that I would highly recommend for my clientele to use. And the reason for that, I actually just did a talk about 2 to 3 weeks ago in my Facebook group, and I think my social media accounts, it's posted on there as well. But I did a talk recently about how the number one way to heal from chronic illness is to stabilize your blood sugar. That is by far now over and over proven that the number one way to heal from adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, any of the chronic illnesses, if you're bedridden, is to start stabilizing your blood sugar. So when I saw the work behind Calocurb, I knew that this is something that will really help my clientele. I'm assuming this is not anything new for you, but have you yet done any of these interviews and podcasts where you've started talking about using this as a method to kind of help with chronic illnesses? And if so, I'd love to hear about it.
Well, it's interesting. We have had thousands, literally thousands of anecdotal reports coming back to us. And you're right, we never talk about weight loss. We talk about just helping you to be able to eat healthier. And to stabilize your blood sugar means you need to be able to eat healthier, and we help you do that because we take away, or we help reduce hunger and craving. And what most people don't realize is hunger, when you drop your calories by 25%, your hunger actually doubles over 4 months. And this was because it was an asset for us in evolution, because it made us go out of our caves and start to hunt. Your body said you're going into starvation. But in the modern world, when we live just surrounded by food, and not always that healthier food, it is a liability for us. So Calocurb is one tool in the toolkit that will help you go, I don't need to eat that. I can actually don't need to eat that, and I can make a healthier choice.
Yes, that's amazing. And again, the premise of my work, when we work with these kind of patients who are very sick, the number one thing we do is stabilize their blood sugar. And I start teaching them how to become more insulin sensitive, because the more insulin your body produces, insulin inflammation, it's the number one cause of 8 of the most common diseases today, from Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. I mean, you name 8 of the most common diseases today, and the highest mortality rate is because of too much insulin that's being produced. And so when you start making the body more insulin sensitive, not only are you helping your body decrease the inflammation, but you're helping your body to really not be in that state of high insulin, high inflammation, that you can actually start healing. And my personal story, everyone that follows me knows my story very well. I've been practicing functional medicine for 15 years. There was a period few years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago, that I got very, very sick and ended up being bedridden for 2 years. And mind you, I'm conventional medicine trained as well as, functional medicine. And not only did I see every specialist in the conventional medicine arena, but then every functional medicine, my colleagues, I mean, I'm best friends with some of the best naturopathic and, osteopathic doctors around the world. They're like my colleagues, my mentors, and I just couldn't heal. And I decided to go back to my roots, and I went on a 7-day water only fast. And that is all I did to get almost back to normal. I used some phototherapy patches after that, and that kind of just 100% recovery. But literally, that water only fast was what did it for me. And it just took me to rest my GI system, my gut, my adrenals, and everything stabilized. I became very insulin sensitive after that, and that was the key. And since then, it's become my mission to teach patients that the way you're going to heal yourself, the way you're going to stay young, the way you're going to fight diseases is by keeping your insulin production down. And so where you're not constantly spiking your insulin every day with your diet, your glucose, all of that, you really keep that down. That's the key to healing. And so when Calocurb came in the picture for me, I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what my clientele, my patients need, because if they can see, let's face it. I mean, fasting in general is not easy,
No.
especially if you're just starting out. When I was that sick, I was at a point in my life, not only when I was sick, but in general, I have a very high metabolism. And so I eat 5 meals a day, or I used to. And so when at that point, the thought of going on a 7 day water only fast was so daunting. And I'm not going to lie, it was sheer death. I mean, I had my mentor who is a phenomenal chiropractor down in West Palm Beach. He monitored me for those 7 days. But it was sheer death. It is not easy, especially for someone who has never fasted. So now you hear so much about intermittent fasting and how people are getting on that bandwagon, but it's very, very hard to start, let alone do any kind of extended fasting. But the bigger problem I see is when they finish fasting, then they gorge and they just go and eat everything. So here, Calocurb actually checks two boxes off, because not only does it help you kind of extend that fasting in a gentle manner, but then once you start eating, like you said in your studies for the women, 80% reduction in cravings, where they really just didn't go and gouge on food and had, a certain percentage of decrease in how much calories they took in.
Well, we got a 14.5%, and what we were so delighted about, that was actually 4 hours after taking Calocurb.
Yeah.
So that was between the placebo. You got, as you would know, and just want to tell all of your listeners, these are gold standard, double-blind, placebo
Yes.
clinical trials. The woman one took 22 months because it was over COVID, and because you have to line up women with their menstrual cycle and the time of day, and $250,000. So these are all performed by the New Zealand government, and these are all published papers. So, we just didn't get a random selection of people and did that. An intermittent fasting, I'm so like you. I've been on Calocurb now for 4.5 years, and I would have never, ever thought about fasting. It just would
Yeah.
have been abhorrent. Missing breakfast. No, I've got to have
No
brisket.
way. No way.
And I'm so like you. And then when I started it, it is just now part of my life. I mean, I do 16, 8, 7 days a week, and I'm fine. I've just been away. We have a 4-day weekend for Easter in New Zealand, which is surrounded by chocolate and eggs and everything
Here
like that.
too.
And I was absolutely hot cross buns, everything you can think of, and I was absolutely fine. You just go, yeah, and if you want to eat, you can eat, but you don't like, I must eat, because you're actually like, I'm okay.
I'm okay. I'm telling you, I mean, until I did that fast, I was hypoglycemic all the time. I would get hangry. And this is even before I got sick. I mean, that was my personality as a teenager, as a young adult. And so that thought of you would fast, like my parents were shocked when I checked into that hotel room to fast for 7 days. They didn't think in their wildest dreams that I could do it. In our culture, it's part of our culture. And my dad has fasted on Thursdays for over 60, 70 years. It's just in our culture. And then there's an 8-day period where we fast for 8 days in August/September. I mean, I've never done anything, never, because I could never do it. And so for me, this was a huge step. But once I got over that hump, and now fasting is a breeze for me. So I actually, for about 4 or 5 years, was doing 16/8, and then I do one 24-hour fast a day every Thursday. But
Yeah.
as I become older and getting into perimenopausal, menopausal stages, so now the recommendations are really 4-2-1, where it's 4 days of 16 hours of fasting, 2 days of 24 hours of fasting, and then 1 day of no fasting. And so kind of that's the guideline that I try to follow. So yesterday was my 24-hour fast, and I took Calocurb, and normally I don't take it. Normally I don't need it at this point, but because you were coming on, I've been taking it for the last week, and I tried on the products. And I'll tell you, I'm a very sensitive person to supplements, but I honestly didn't feel much with the Calocurb, like in a good way. Like I didn't have brain fog, I didn't have the side effects or anything like that. I felt slight nausea within the first hour or two of taking it, but that was it. I mean, I didn't even have the diarrhea or anything like that. So next week, so I do this every year since I did my water only fast. I go for 5 days down to West Palm with my mentor, and I just do a 5 day water only fast since I got sick. So ever since then, I've done it. So next week is a week. And so I'm going to take my Calocurb with me because it is tough. I mean, 5 days is just really tough. I'm, of course, monitored, someone's monitoring me and things like that. But I will take the Calocurb this time because I've never had it in the past. So I'm very curious to see.
Yeah, my COO, he does 4 day fast, 4 and 5 day fast, and he just takes Calocurb. I mean,
Wow.
I do like what you do, and what you're saying, 4-2-1. I'm just a bit lazy, so I just find the 16-8 just, you know,
Easy, yes.
is,
Easy
is
to
you know,
do.
fits my life. But I do agree with you. You should change it up. But intermittent fasting, just some of the benefits of it are. I'm not sure if you've seen a meta-analysis that was put out by Yale, but I'll send it to you. The benefits are just extraordinary. But the number one reason that people find it hard is hunger. So
Hunger.
we're just helping people get over that. And I literally take my 2 Calocurb every morning at about 8 o'clock, and I'm fine till 1 o'clock. If you had have told me that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you.
Wouldn't
I'd
have.
also say, people go, oh well, I might get dizzy. We literally have, I think, something like 2 million calories in our body. You will not get dizzy by an 8 hour, 10 hour fast. Drink lots of water. And do you know what it comes from a lot of the time is salt. So use an electrolyte
Yeah.
in your diet. But when people go, oh no, I've got to have it for energy in the morning, you don't need it for
You don't need
energy.
that. And the funny part is, at least with my clientele, when they work with me, fasting is a big part of it, intermittent fasting and just regular extended fasting. But from the beginning, before they even start, I kind of tee them up where I really give them a multi-mineral. So they are on multi-minerals year round. And so that really helps. But then when they are doing the fast, we do some kind of electrolytes or salts. And that's when intermittent fasting first came out, people were like, oh, I'm getting these cramps and oh, I'm really hot, heart palpitations and all that. That's just side effects of you not having proper balanced electrolytes and minerals. But with my clientele and my patients, I put them on that first, and then we get to the fasting portion, and you're really not going to have those side effects otherwise. So it's not to be blamed on some sort of fasting or supplement or anything like that. It's really just that your body needs some sort of salts or electrolytes, and if you kind of prep your body where you have it from the beginning, I have no symptoms
Well,
at all
that's
anymore.
what I'm drinking my electrolyte now.
There you
So,
go. Yeah.
yeah, so I love that. But when you said you got a slight nausea and you are sensitive, we are very upfront. We say, this is an active product. It's not an act of God. It is an active product. And in around 5% of people, they will get a laxative effect.
Mhm.
That does go. It's just you are super stimulating your endogenous cells or these receptor cells, and we say actually, that's very normal, and it's just your body getting used to it, and it's good because your body's responding to it. Other people with a really, a resistant gut won't get anything, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, it doesn't work for me, and we say, well, up your dose a little bit.
Yes.
But yes, but that does go. Your body gets used to it. A lot of people don't mind the laxative effect. It's like, hey, I've
It's like
had
a
a
detox. Yeah.
yeah, I've had a detox. So that's all. And remember, 99% of it is in your gut. Less than 1% is in your bloodstream. So it's not going to affect, your liver, your kidneys, or anything like that, because it's focused on your gut.
Yes. And did I read in some research as well that over time it helps with healing the cells of the gut as well?
Well, we would like to, our scientists believe that, but we don't obviously have the clinical on that. Interesting enough, we're just coming up to our fourth human clinical, which is in 150 men and women. BMI between 25 and 35. So we're taking the normal and overweight range, and that's 6 months. And we'll be doing a lot of those metabolic measures. So we'll be doing DEXA scans before they start. We'll be doing blood before they start. We'll be doing all of those things. So that will take us around about 18 months, by the time we've got it. That's just coming out of ethics now, and costing us $2 million.
Wow.
So our number one, or our first value in our company, is science-led. So everything we do is science. The second one is customer success. So we love hearing about when people have had success and how they're using it, and what, and how, exactly like you're telling me how you're using it. And that is fantastic for us.
Yeah, I really think, and now as I start incorporating it more into my practice, I wanted to, see the science and the research. I tried it myself just to be sure. Thankfully, I don't need any help with fasting, but I was like, let me try, see how I try everything. I'm the guinea pig before I recommend it at all to any of my followers and listeners and things like that. So I thought it was fantastic. And like I said, as sensitive as I am to any supplements, I don't usually do
Yeah.
many. It was fantastic for me. So first time, I mean, I've been water only fasting now for 7 years, I guess, where I go every, once a
I
year,
know,
once a week. And so this is the first time I'm going to take Calocurb with me. I think it's going to make it a lot easier for me because it is fasting friendly. So
totally fasting friendly. So we've done all of that. I think it's like 4 calories or something like that. So totally fasting friendly. As I said, I always take mine daily. My COO does 4 to 5 day fast, and just absolutely loves it. And the other, it is a natural product. There's only 3 natural ingredients in it, and they're all vegetarian based or vegetable based. But it's interesting to call it a supplement. We actually call it a nutraceutical, because we literally took a farmer approach to proving this. And we, $30 million in 14 years. So, and this is literally the one product. We don't do anything else. This is the one product. So we call it a nutraceutical. And we are also the only one in the world. We are patented. So, about what we do. So you can't go, oh, well, go and buy someone else, because they're not, well, I don't think there is anything else. And
there isn't, right?
looked at everything that said GLP-1 activators, and they haven't done the clinicals on them. They can't, and I go to them, well, have you measured the GLP-1? And they go, oh, no. And I'm like, well, how can you say it's an activator then?
Right. So for me, anything that I put my name to, just given my previous background, I was a physical therapist for 22 years, and anything, I'm trained in conventional medicine, I'm trained in functional medicine. If I put my name to anything, I need the research and science backing behind it. I was very, very upset a few weeks ago when the American Heart Association, very, very irresponsible of them to put an article out that says, intermittent fasting is responsible for 81% or 81% of people who intermittent fast get heart attacks. And it was just such a terrible thing. There's no studies behind it, no double blind, placebo control, nothing. And it was simple, just people filling out a questionnaire. And from that questionnaire, they put that hypothesis out. And I made a video about it because I was so upset about that. It is very irresponsible. And that's why I follow companies like yourself, like Calocurb, or anything that I do. It's research, it's studied. And so there's data behind it to show the efficacy, to show the side effects, to show how it works. It really needs to be substantial research. And so, kudos to you guys and government of New Zealand for putting out such solid data and research on this.
Yeah, thank you. It's been 14 years now, but it's it's an amazing product. It's changed my life, and it's changed how I view food. I had a love-hate relationship with food my whole life, and I wasn't sick, but I didn't. I binged, I overate, I dieted, I yo-yoed, I did all of those things. And now I can absolutely say I'm at peace with food, and I can look at it, I can eat it, I can enjoy it. But I no longer, I'm at peace, and it's
Right.
just so, so good.
Yes, it is. And once you do the fast, once you do any kind of fasting, when you first break that fast and have food, whether it's in my case, 5 days, 7 days, even 24 hours, you have such a renewed sense of respect towards the food, not to mention the taste, the smell, all of it is just, you finally take so much of it in. We're such a generation of, we sit on the couch and on our phone, we do Uber Eats, and the food comes to our doorstep within 30 minutes. We have no more respect or value for food, like back in the day where the hunters and gatherers went for 4 days searching for food, searching for animals to kill. You have a very renewed sense. And so now, as you start getting this healthy relationship with food, with fasting, that is a product like this is something really to help clients get over that hump when they're having such a
Absolutely.
tough time with it.
And, I think you're 100% right. What we've got to remember is evolution took millions and millions of years. Our brain is wired for us to go out and to hunt food. As I said, your hindbrain does not like it. It thinks we're going into starvation when you reduce the calories. But yet that's what we did in our evolutionary time. We went without food, and we hunted for food, and then we weren't surrounded by eating food. And the one that gets me the most grumpy is, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. That was done by Dr.
Yes.
Kellogg.
Yes.
And he wrote for, I think it was the American Nutrition Society, and he coined that phrase. Breakfast is the most important part of the day. And that is just you know is as we know, it's ridiculous.
That's right.
and,
And what
and
people don't realize, it's really technically breakfast. So
that's right, break your
when
fast.
you break that fast, it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. When you break that fast is breakfast. And
That absolutely.
I recently saw something too where I believe it was the CEO of Kellogg or someone from upper level executive from Kellogg came out and said that, for given the current inflation rates, they were now promoting cereal for dinner. And I just was like, this is just, killing the people out there with some of these things that they're coming up with and coining. It's really more about breaking the fast. And that's when you break the fast, whether it's at lunchtime, whether it's, if you do one meal a day, it's in the evening. It's technically when you break that fast. It doesn't have to be right at 7 a.m., considering it the most important meal of the day. The most important meal of the day is when you break that fast, is to not gouge,
Absolutely.
not have high levels of sugar and things like that. So yeah.
Well, I mean, they're very refined sugar and carbohydrates. Always, we should be looking at the protein in our diet. Protein for children is so
Yes.
important. Protein for adults. Protein as you're getting older is so important. And when we're having these high salt or high sugar, high carb, refined carbohydrate snacking or cereals, this is not giving that to your body. And you're not helping. You're going to have that huge sugar spike, and then you're going to feel hungry again. And
Absolutely, because you're going to have the crash. Yeah. And so
yeah,
this
and
is one of the things too that I work with my clientele. Not only do I teach them how to fast, but then I'll teach them how much protein to have in that 6 or 8 hour window that they're eating, because that's another thing people don't realize is, yes, you can fast, but if you're not eating the right stuff and if you're not getting the right amount of protein in that eating window, you are really going to cause, a lot of damage and a lot of muscle wasting and things like that. And that's, again, a whole another different conversation. But this is where I think Calocurb comes in, not only to help you extend your fasting, but also then when you break the fast, to have that mind frame and healthy relationship with the food, that I'm going to start with a high protein, healthy meal, and work my way from there. So I think all of these things really come into play. And I will say, with my clientele, at least what I teach them over time is how to make their bodies more insulin sensitive. So
yeah,
just producing the least amount of insulin to have the maximum benefit. And so as you go longer and longer with the fast, and in this case using something like Calocurb, you are really making your body more insulin sensitive. I mean, that's why women in menopause, all my clients that are in menopause, they really gain weight and they come to me very frustrated. And I tell them, because you are insulin resistant. Lack of estrogen makes you insulin resistant.
Yep.
So let's get you more insulin sensitive and you will start losing that weight. And so again, that's where something like Calocurb comes in to really help this type of clientele get to that point. So I
Well,
really, really appreciate it. You said Calocurb is the only product that you guys are doing. And I love, yes, and I love that you guys have put your heart and soul into it. And there's so much research that goes into it. I love the fact that it is a fraction of the cost, not to mention the side effects and any of the damaging side effects of synthetic injectable GLP-1 products out there, but it is a fraction of the cost, much healthier, much better, and has long-term, benefits than, what you can get on the market. I think it's the injectables out there like $1,000 or something per month.
Yeah, they're around about 1,200 US.
Yeah.
And look, I think they have opened up the discussion about obesity and the etiology of obesity. But people tell me you have to use them for life. I'm like, I wouldn't. Every practitioner I talk to says, I want to get my patients off them. How do I get them? And this is why Calocurb has been used, because as people come off, first of all, you don't want this incredible hard landing because your endogenous have been, absolutely flattened. So it re-stimulates that and allows people to then just to start to not go from like no food, to start to monitor and that diet again. You can't just slam it with just this very, very high level of synthetics and then just take it off.
Right. So yeah, much cheaper, much more affordable, less side effects. I mean, really, very beneficial, I think, all around. So tell us real quick, my listeners and my audience has a discount code HCIL10 where they can get 10% off. Give us the website of Calocurb just so everyone has it.
It's www.calocurb.com. The Calocurb, if you can't understand my accent, it's CALOCURB.
Yeah, and I think that's very ingenious as well because it's calorie curbing. So it's Calocurb, where you curb how many calories you get in. I think that's ingenious. So www.calocurb.com. And if you use code HCIL10 for an extra 10% off. And thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on today. I think this is going to be really groundbreaking when it comes to in the industry of nutraceuticals, really fighting the war against obesity and some of these very high level diseases like cardiovascular, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all of these diseases. I think this is going to be a game changer.
Well, look, thank you for having me and on your show, but also thank you for the work you're doing. You don't know how joyous it is for me to talk to someone who totally understands it and can talk to their patients and to talk about some of these benefits. And we are just one tool in the toolkit, which is why we love working with practitioners, because it does come with guidance about food and all of those things. We are just a tool to help your patients. Absolutely. And of course, help you in your 7-day fast.
Yes, I'm going to take it with me. I think I'm going to front load and then just, once you're in ketosis, it gets much better.
It does.
Usually the first 2 to 3 days are tough. So I might just front load and then get all the benefits after that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.